There is a conflict between the NFPA 70E 2004 Article 120.3d3 and OSHA's 1910.147 ID. The NFPA standard allows a person in charge to install locks or tags on behalf of other employees. The OSHA standard requires each authorized employee to fix and remove their own lockout or tagout devices. The concern is that the NFPA 70E 120.3d3 only partially addresses the issue by requiring the person in charge to be qualified. It does not fully comply with OSHA's 1910.147 3I through C. The NFPA 70E 120.3d3 omits the critical and at the end of 1910.147 3AC. This emphasizes the requirement of 1910.147 3ID that each employee hangs their own lockout or tagout devices. A proposed change to NFPA 70E 2004 Article 120.3d3 is as follows. 120.3d3 Lockout or tagout procedure. The person or persons authorized to conduct the lockout or tagout shall be the only person to remove the lockout or tagout device or devices and shall do so in the reverse order in which they were applied. B. Each authorized employee shall affix a personal lockout or tagout device to the group lockout device, group lockbox, or comparable mechanism when they begin work, and shall remove those devices when they stop working on the machine or equipment being serviced or maintained. C. The person in charge shall be responsible for enforcing the lockout or tagout procedure and ensuring that all energy sources have been disconnected and energized, and all hazardous energy has been controlled and isolated. The rationale for this proposed change is that it aligns NFPA 70E with OSHA's 1910.147 3I by ensuring the following. Firstly, only authorized employees hang their own lockout or tagout devices. Secondly, employees are responsible for affixing and removing their own personal devices. Thirdly, the person in charge retains the responsibility of enforcing the lockout or tagout procedure and ensuring that all energy sources are controlled and isolated. This proposed change will improve the safety of lockout or tagout procedures. This is achieved by ensuring that each employee takes responsibility for their own safety. Also, the person in charge has clear and defined responsibilities. The core issue revolves around the principle of individual accountability in lockout-tagout procedures. The OSHA standard emphasizes that each authorized employee should have control over their own safety by applying and removing their personal lockout devices. The original NFPA 70E language seemingly allowed a supervisor or person in charge to act on behalf of other employees, which can dilute individual responsibility. There are several reasons why individual lockout-tagout is considered safer. 1. It ensures that each worker is personally verifying the energy isolation before starting work. 2. It prevents accidental removal of lockout devices by someone other than the worker who placed it. 3. It promotes a culture of safety where each employee takes ownership of their own protection. The proposed change strengthens the lockout-tagout process. It does this by clarifying the responsibilities of both the authorized employees and the person in charge. The authorized employees are responsible for their own personal safety through individual lockout-tagout. The person in charge is responsible for overseeing the entire process and ensuring that all energy sources are properly isolated. The implementation of this proposed change involves several key steps. The first step is updating the written lockout-tagout procedures to reflect the new requirements. The second step is providing training to all authorized employees on the revised procedures. The third step is ensuring that adequate lockout-tagout devices are available for each employee. The fourth step is monitoring compliance with the new procedures and addressing any issues that arise. The training should cover several areas, including the following. Firstly, the importance of individual lockout-tagout. Secondly, the proper procedures for applying and removing lockout-tagout devices. Thirdly, the identification of energy sources and isolation points. Fourthly, the responsibilities of both authorized employees and the person in charge. In addition to these changes, it's important to reinforce the overall principles of lockout-tagout. These principles include identifying all potential hazards, isolating all energy sources, verifying the isolation, and using appropriate lockout-tagout devices. Lockout Tagout is not just about following procedures. It's about creating a safe working environment where employees are empowered to protect themselves from hazardous energy. The proposed change addresses a critical safety concern. It also aligns NFPA 70E with OSHA regulations. By implementing this change, organizations can improve the effectiveness of their lockout tagout programs and reduce the risk of accidents and injuries. Lockout tagout procedures are essential for protecting employees from hazardous energy during maintenance and servicing of equipment. Hazardous energy can include electrical, mechanical, hydraulic, pneumatic, chemical, thermal, and other sources. Failure to properly control hazardous energy can result in serious injuries or fatalities. The OSHA Standard 1910.147, the control of hazardous energy, establishes requirements for lockout tagout procedures. The purpose of the standard is to prevent the unexpected energization or startup of machinery or equipment, or the release of stored energy that could cause harm to employees. The standard requires employers to develop, implement, and enforce a written lockout tagout program. The program must include procedures for identifying and controlling hazardous energy sources, using lockout tagout devices, and training employees. The lockout tagout procedure typically involves the following steps. Firstly, preparation for shutdown. This involves identifying all hazardous energy sources and notifying affected employees. Secondly, equipment shutdown. This involves shutting down the equipment in a safe and orderly manner. Thirdly, equipment isolation. This involves disconnecting or isolating all energy sources. Fourthly, lockout tagout device application. This involves applying lockout tagout devices to energy isolating devices to prevent the equipment from being energized. Fifthly, stored energy control. This involves dissipating or restraining any stored energy. Sixthly, verification of isolation. This involves verifying that the equipment is properly isolated and cannot be energized. Seventhly, maintenance or servicing. This involves performing the necessary maintenance or servicing on the equipment. Eighthly, removal of lockout tagout devices. This involves removing the lockout tagout devices after the maintenance or servicing is completed. Ninthly, equipment startup. This involves starting up the equipment in a safe and orderly manner. The lockout tagout devices must be durable, standardized, and identifiable. The devices must also indicate the identity of the employee who applied them. The lockout tagout program must include training for all authorized employees. Authorized employees are those who perform lockout tagout procedures. The training must cover the purpose and function of the lockout tagout program, the procedures for applying and removing lockout tagout devices, and the identification of hazardous energy sources. The lockout tagout program must also include periodic inspections to ensure that the procedures are being followed correctly. The inspections must be conducted by an authorized employee who is not involved in the lockout tagout procedure being inspected. In addition to the OSHA standard, there are other resources available to help employers develop and implement effective lockout tagout programs. These resources include the National Electrical Code, NFPA 70E, and industry best practices. By following these guidelines, employers can create a safe working environment and protect employees from hazardous energy. Remember that lockout tagout is not just a procedure, it's a critical safety practice that can save lives. The distinction between lockout and tagout is important. Lockout involves physically blocking the energy isolating device, such as a circuit breaker, valve, or disconnect switch, to prevent the flow of energy. This is typically done with a lock that is secured to the device. Tagout involves placing a tag on the energy isolating device to warn employees not to operate it. Tagout is typically used when lockout is not possible. While tagout can be effective, it is generally considered less reliable than lockout because it relies on human behavior rather than physical restraint. The selection of appropriate lockout tagout devices is also critical. The devices must be durable enough to withstand the environment in which they are used, and they must be standardized throughout the facility. This helps to ensure that employees can easily identify and use the devices. The devices must also be clearly labeled with the identity of the employee who applied them. This allows for accountability and ensures that only the authorized employee can remove the device. In addition to the written lockout tagout procedures, it is important to have visual aids available to employees. This can include posters, diagrams, and videos that illustrate the lockout tagout process. The visual aids can help to reinforce the training and make it easier for employees to understand the procedures. It is also important to involve employees in the development and implementation of the lockout tagout program. This helps to ensure that the procedures are practical and effective, and that employees are committed to following them. Employees can provide valuable input in the identification of hazardous energy sources, the selection of appropriate lockout tagout devices, and the development of clear and concise procedures. The periodic inspections of the lockout tagout program should be documented. The documentation should include the date of the inspection, the name of the inspector, the findings of the inspection, and any corrective actions that were taken. This documentation can be used to track the effectiveness of the lockout tagout program and to identify areas for improvement. It is also important to review the lockout tagout program periodically, at least annually, to ensure that it is still effective and up to date. The review should take into account any changes in equipment, processes, or regulations. The review should also consider any feedback from employees. The lockout tagout program should be a living document that is continuously updated and improved. The goal is to create a culture of safety where lockout tagout is not just a procedure, but a way of life. The consistent and proper application of lockout tagout procedures is a cornerstone of workplace safety, especially in environments with hazardous energy sources. The principles of individual accountability, comprehensive training, and ongoing program evaluation are essential for minimizing the risk of accidents and ensuring the well-being of employees. Remember, a robust lockout tagout program is an investment in safety, productivity, and the long-term success of the organization. Furthermore, the proper implementation of a lockout tagout program can have a positive impact on employee morale. When employees feel safe and protected, they are more likely to be engaged and productive. A strong safety culture can also help to attract and retain top talent. In addition to the direct benefits of preventing accidents and injuries, a well-managed lockout tagout program can also help to reduce costs associated with workers' compensation claims, lost productivity, and equipment damage. A proactive approach to safety is always more cost-effective than a reactive approach. Moreover, compliance with OSHA regulations is not only a legal requirement, but also a moral obligation. Employees have a responsibility to provide a safe working environment for their employees. Failure to do so can have devastating consequences. The proposed changes to NFPA 70E, as discussed, aim to strengthen the alignment with OSHA standards, promoting a higher level of safety and clarity in lockout tagout procedures. By embracing these changes and implementing comprehensive lockout tagout programs, organizations can create a safer, more productive, and more sustainable workplace. The importance of clear communication cannot be overstated in the context of lockout tagout procedures. All affected employees must be informed about the lockout tagout process, the reasons for it, and their roles and responsibilities. This communication should be ongoing and reinforced through training, meetings, and visual aids. Language barriers should be addressed by providing training materials and instructions in multiple languages as needed. Moreover, it is essential to establish a clear chain of command and communication for lockout tagout procedures. This ensures that all employees know who is responsible for each step of the process and who to contact if they have any questions or concerns. Regular communication between authorized employees and the person in charge is also critical for ensuring that the lockout tagout process is being followed correctly and that any potential hazards are being addressed. In addition to formal training, informal training and mentoring can also be valuable for reinforcing lockout tagout procedures. Experienced employees can share their knowledge and best practices with newer employees, helping them to develop a deeper understanding of the lockout tagout process and its importance. Mentoring can also provide a safe space for employees to ask questions and raise concerns. Furthermore, it is important to encourage employees to report any potential hazards or near misses related to lockout tagout procedures. This allows the organization to identify and address potential problems before they result in accidents or injuries. A no-blame culture should be fostered, where employees feel comfortable reporting safety concerns without fear of retaliation. The information gathered from these reports can be used to improve the Lockout Tagout program and to prevent future incidents. In conclusion, a comprehensive and effective Lockout Tagout program is essential for protecting employees from hazardous energy. The program should include written procedures, training, appropriate lockout tagout devices, periodic inspections, and a strong commitment to safety from all levels of the organization. By following these guidelines, employers can create a safer, more productive, and more sustainable workplace. The proactive management of hazardous energy through robust lockout tagout procedures is a testament to an organization's commitment to the well-being of its employees and the integrity of its operations.